All right, I think it worked. All right. So I'm here with Greg today, and he's going to be sharing with a. Oh, there we go. Now it went live. Okay, so I'm here with Greg today, and we're going to be making a quick testimony video on some deliverance he received from AFib. So I don't know a whole lot about how that works. Greg is more of the expert in that area. So in the beginning here, Greg, why don't you just tell us kind of how you found out you even had AFib and just kind of your journey through that?
Sure. So, when I was 13, I was 3 days before my 13th birthday, and I broke my jaw in PE class, and I had to have my jaw wired shut. So when they put me under to wire my jaw shut, and when they put me under, they hooked me up to a EKG machine, and when they put me on the EKG machine, they realized that I have this thing called atrial fibrillation, which is basically like misfiring of your heart's um, beats. So it's not in rhythm. It's an irregular rhythm is what AFib is. So it's a higher chance for things like stroke, um, makes you really tired. It's really common very irritable. It's really common in older people as the heart starts to tire and it will start misfiring more often. So it was very rare for me at 13 to have been diagnosed with AFib.
And do you have like a family history at all with this, or were you kind of the first one?
So I think my grandfather had AFib at one point, and I mean now my grandma was actually just diagnosed with AFib this past year. But I mean, other than that, I mean, AFib isn't really usually seen as a family history kind of thing. So it's pretty interesting, at least for something at this age group at 13 years old. So
Yeah. So, I mean, I remember you having quite a few surgeries back in the day. So how many did you end up having?
so I had let's see, I had two ablations, which are like more surgery, where they have to cut in and go through everything. Um, but I had 8 cardioversions, which are seen as like procedures, but like they are, where they're going to shock your heart and try to put it back into rhythm. Ablation, they go through your leg into your artery and come up and like shock the nodes around your heart.
Okay. So were they expecting after each surgery, like for that to be the last one, or were they planning on, okay, this is going to be multiple surgeries throughout your life, or what was kind of the deal with that?
Yeah, so definitely. When they do these with older people, it's usually one cardioversion and it's over. Um, so they were expecting hopefully that it was just some random thing that happened to me and they could just shock my heart one time with a cardioversion and I'd be over with it. So after the first 3 cardioversions, they decided they wanted to do an ablation, which was very rare on someone that I think at that time I was 15 years old and my body was still, growing. So they were very concerned about that. So I did the ablation. And after my fourth cardioversion, because they had to do a cardioversion, put me into rhythm for and then do the ablation. After the ablation, they were convinced that it was over because the ablation is like um it ends it all. And that's what's supposed to be. They go around the heart, they shock it they burn the nodes around your heart, and they it's supposed to end it all. It eventually did come back the AFib, so I had more cardioversions until they wanted to get me to a certain age. So when I turned 18, I had already had another big group of cardioversions because they didn't want me to be growing up with this. But when I turned 18, they did one more cardioversion and said, we're going to do another ablation. So that was my second ablation that I had. And they were hoping that this was going to be the last one. But for a big group of them, they thought this would be the end of it. So
Yeah. And so this whole thing was like over a 5-year journey of you going in for surgery, doctor visits, all this stuff, and
mhm.
they tell you hopefully this is the last one, and then you'd be back again.
Yep, 6 months later, I'd have another checkup and it would be back. So
Okay. Okay. So my memory is a little fuzzy on how we went about organizing deliverance with you for that. Do you remember how that all went down?
Well, you had reached out to me that you had seen some of these deliverance in medical problems before, and I was like, nothing's gonna hurt. So absolutely, because I just found out, I had found out I was back in AFib, but they were planning this last ablation was what they were doing. I think I was about 18. So, we kind of set into plan and on a day where you and of course Emily could come over and just pray over me and try to use deliverance to find a solution to this long term. So
Yeah. Okay. And so that was when you were 18 we did that?
mhm.
And how, what, you're
I'm
20,
I'm
22 now?
23 now, so that was
23.
about 5 years. So
Okay. Yeah. And you haven't had any issues since deliverance, right?
no, after the deliverance we had, when we went through all of that and I felt the AFib demon come out, I had one more of my last ablation, which of course I'd already had one before, but that ablation, um, once that was over, I was AFib free and I have not had any problems for the past 5 years.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. And so just kind of describe for everybody what that was like having the AFib demon come out, because that was unique for sure. We
Yes.
hadn't seen anything like that at the time. So,
Yeah. So if I don't remember doing this,
yeah.
but apparently as we were going over, I think we spent probably an hour, 2 hours going through it.
Yeah, around, it wasn't super long, but it wasn't super quick either. So,
Right. Well, I don't remember it being that long at all. I thought it was 10 minutes, which was crazy.
yeah.
But Emily was reading from the Bible and you were praying over trying to cast out these demons. And I remember afterwards you told me that I was snarling at Emily, who was reading the Bible. Um, which is just crazy because, it's not, I didn't know I did that. So, snarling at my sister who's trying to pray over me, uh, that is, just trying to help me. And then once it was not long after that where I noticed that it was just like whatever we were doing, I just didn't really feel anything inside me anymore. And it was just like, I feel great. Like it felt a release. And yeah, so after that, I feel great.
Yeah. Praise God. That's awesome. Yeah, we very much felt from seeing the snarling, that was like, as the snarling ended, that was, that was kind of the exit. We call that a manifestation of exit, right? That's what we're looking for. And sometimes they come out with yawns or burps or screams or snarls.
Yeah.
We just hadn't noticed the snarl, but I mean, it was like a growling dog, like you were like a dog growling
Yeah.
at her. And it was, we were like, well, we're onto something here. This is weird.
Yeah, it was definitely weird.
Yeah. So being somebody who had like a reaction, like a demonic thing come out in the midst of all of these surgeries and everything, it's a little coincidental, right? That like, maybe we could totally just say like, no, it was the last ablation that actually did it, but it's like the timing of everything's a little interesting, and then we have that big manifestation where something comes out and you feel the release. So one of the things that we've been trying to figure out as a ministry is just where that line is between deliverance and healing.
Right.
And we don't really have an answer, but I'm just curious, somebody being on the other side, the receiving end of that, do you have any thoughts on that? Like, do you think we could, like, where's the end of this? Can we just go heal everybody? Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah, I mean, we can do all things through Christ, right? So,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I guess if he is willing, then you can
Right.
heal as many people as you wanted to. I mean, so for me, after dealing with this for so long, and to now be 5 years without it, I have never gone longer than a year without being diagnosed with AFib from the ages of 13 to 18. Um, so for those 5 years, having 6 months, every 6 months, I had a cardioversion or an ablation, and it's just I don't think you can really call it a coincidence where one of the times where I'm preparing for another ablation, another surgery, where I have this deliverance and I have this snarling effect, and I have I felt a release of this demon, and then all of a sudden I have my final surgery, and then I haven't had problems for 5 years. You know, the doctors I had are amazing. They're incredible and they are amazing at what they do. And I don't want to put down what they did because
Sure.
part of what they
Of
did
course.
saved my life, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
um, but there's definitely something that was in me that when we cast out didn't have a hold on my body anymore.
Right.
And yeah, I definitely feel very thankful for what we did that day because I think that it is long term what has helped me stay out of this irregular heartbeat.
Yeah. Well, that's a super powerful testimony, man. It's awesome to hear. Let's say just to kind of end this, let's say somebody else is watching this and they're in the position you used to be in, right? We got a family and they're struggling, they're dealing with this, whether, it's a teenager or a parent or something going through this. What would you say to them? Just like, as they're going through this, let's say they're a believer, how would you encourage them?
Keep an open mind about these kind of things. These are things that, for myself, I wasn't sure what it was going to do for me. I was like, this is a medical problem. I didn't think I was going to really have a demon inside me that was going to be cast out. So just keep an open mind because there are ways that God works each and every day, and He's going to work something magical in you. And these things that God, you have to deal with, God will turn to good, right? So I think just remember to, worship the Lord and continue to believe that He will do good in you, and just continue to, fight it, fighting against the devil, resist temptation. And, these are definitely something that if you can reach out to Deliverance Solutions, they can definitely help out. So,
Yeah. Cool. All right, Greg. Well, thank you so much for taking the time and just sharing that. I know this testimony is going to bless people. Or also, it might tick people off. I don't know. We'll see what happens. But thanks, man. And
all
talk to you soon.
right, see you soon.